Nah.
Welcome to another edition of Your Impact Attack. That is right, it is Your Impact Attack. We are just keeping it. You know, we're kind of like we're like valet parking. You give it to us for a couple hours or whatever. We give it back to you as in the same condition or better that you gave it to us. And we're not going to go through your glove box and find a gun and call the police and have you taken off of WWE TV for a few weeks while we sort things out. But who are we? Who are we? Who is saying all this that Sonya Deville doesn't have to be worried about? I am Jamie the Vet Williams. And with me, as always, my tag team partner, Brandon. And here's the tag, and boom.
Howdy how.
That's right. Mr. Brandon, the Christmas. Well, I'm not gonna denigrate Brandon by saying he's something that he's really not, because he's great. But yeah, Brandon, what's going on? It's not even close to Christmas time. What's happening?
Well, I mean, there's that one episode in the second season of South Park where he came out during during the summertime, or during one of the later times, or the warmer times of the year. First, that was when they found out that he's actually not supposed to be out during those times, so it'll kill him.
I see. So he's like, "What time were you asleep? I put myself in your mouth and took a picture."
Yes.
Yeah. Uh, oh, good times. Back when I was younger and found South Park somewhat amusing. But yeah, so here we are. It's another Impact Attack, which is yours, by the way. Like to take as little responsibility for it as possible. Not too much news out in the world to report, would you say, or did you hear anything that struck your fancy that you'd like to comment on or talk about?
Now, it's interesting though that Punk seems to be kind of making the rounds backstage of these wrestling promotions.
Oh yeah, it's almost like he's a normal guy who visits people that he likes to see. But I love how it riles everybody up, though.
The thing with him, though, is that from everything we've heard about him, that's kind of out of character for him. That's just the only thing.
Well, that's true. The timing of it. But, if he was entrenched in something like in the middle of one of his runs and there was no controversy, surrounding him at the current time, you probably would never have had to hear about it. Like if he was in the middle of his WWE run and he showed up somewhere, like people would just be, oh, they were just in that city visiting people or whatever. It's whatever. Who knows, man? What he does is he provides a lot of fodder for the people that make a living, reporting on the wrestling business. And I guess I use that word in quotes, but I mean, what else? I mean,
and he keeps his name on people's mouths.
Right. Plus, people wrestling shows keep coming to his city. I mean, what? I remember thinking like, so just for a small example, right? And I could kind of relate. I could kind of relate to Punk in a lot of ways because I don't know. I feel like the reason that I didn't like he sort of rubbed me the wrong way. It may have been, looking back, it may have been one of those like familiarity breeds contempt type of things because we're probably similar in a lot of ways. And, a lot of people who are similar in ways, at first they don't like each other. So maybe if I actually like stuck around and got to know him for however, we probably would have ended up being friends in some form or fashion just because, you can't be too similar and stay at odds forever. But I think like we used to have here for a brief period of time where I am this if you're familiar with like fighting video games, like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and whatever, and there were like there were these organize tournaments, for gamers, the pro gamers that would come around, and they had one called, NorCal Regionals, and that was set up in the Bay Area for most of its life, and people would travel from all over the world, to compete there, even though it was mostly, locals and and US nationals, but like there were Japanese players that would come there because if you won a major tournament, you got a spot for Evo, which is the Evolution tournament, that the big fighting game tournament that they would hold in, Las Vegas or whatever every year.
Kind of like the video game version of the Street Fighter tournaments themselves.
Pretty much. So it was set up in the Bay Area, but they relocated to my city from, like, I guess it was San Francisco or one of those Bay Area towns, but they relocated further up north to my city. And this is when I was like kind of semi-competitive in that stuff. So when they showed up here, like, even if I didn't like, I didn't really want to like enter the tournament and compete, it felt weird to have like a huge video game tournament that like rented the big ballroom space downtown and had like hundreds of people showing up and international players coming in. It's just sitting in my backyard and I'm just going to not go? It just felt like I should just show up, go hang out, and whatever. And so some of the times I entered and competed, some of the times I just, walked around the floor and, watched the tournaments and stuff like that. But I just felt like I was obligated to go. So all that is to say, like, that's just a small version. But like, if I'm Punk in the middle of this situation, and wrestling shows keep coming to my city, even though my city is Chicago, one of the biggest, if not the biggest wrestling cities in the world, you kind of just want to be like, you know what? Why don't I just go? Maybe it's because you're thinking, yeah, well, I'm getting my name out there and I'm going to get people talking or rile them up. That would be giving him the credit of thinking that he really cares what a lot of these like dirt sheet writers think or whatever. Maybe he knows what they're going to say, but maybe he just wants to do it anyway. Who knows? Or maybe he really just does whatever he wants because he's that type of a person. We can't really be sure, but it sure is kind of interesting to see how everybody projects their thoughts and ideas and feelings onto him and his motives and what he's doing. Right. So I don't know. Yeah.
I laughed my ass off today when I listened to the latest castrating the marks, and they played the finale clip where they're talking about where Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer are talking about Punk at Raw, and they sounded like they're at a funeral and somebody just died. Like that was literally like the tone. Like they reported, like I was literally just sitting there like, all right, we have reports that a second plane has hit the World Trade Center. Like that was like the somber tone that they were reporting it with.
Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't think about it too much, but I was thinking, when that happened, I talked about this a little bit. If anybody was happened to be watching my Twitch that day or whatever, but I remember just kind of going off on a side rant and saying, like, if the WWE, if anybody there had any balls and he showed up there to just go up to him, he was going around saying hi to people, supposedly said hi to Triple H and all this stuff. And if I was Triple H, if you hand me the pencil, right, and Punk comes up and says hi or whatever, I'm like, want to work tonight? You want to go out there? Like, hey, I'm presenting this new stupid championship belt that we're pulling out of our asses to just present to somebody. You want to come out there and shit on that? Kind of cut a promo, get AEW over, like whatever. I would say that. I'd be telling the guy in the truck, hey, go to YouTube and get Cult of Personality ready. Just do that. Let everybody lose their minds. They're going to lose their minds any damn way. Let's have them officially lose their minds when he comes out, just for, whatever. We'll cut one of the women's matches. It's fine. Like we can let them chant CM Punk for 5 minutes or whatever, and it'd be great promotion for AEW. It'd be great promotion for us because people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, they let an AEW contracted wrestler walk out. What's gonna happen next week?" And obviously, we're not going to have shit for him next week, but they don't know that, so we'll get a big ratings boost for next week, you know? So it's like, that would have been, if they had the guts, there's really no reason they couldn't have done it. There's no actual reason. That contract tampering bullshit, hey, how many times do you want to say that this is not real sports? You want to talk about it's a TV show, okay? You know what I mean? Like, was it contract tampering to let Lizzo show up on The Mandalorian? No. If it's a cameo appearance, all right? And it does business for everybody, gets everybody talking, gets everybody over, doesn't hurt one person one bit. It really wouldn't. The only reason that anybody even thinks like that is because of this old carny mindset. How long are we going to keep pretending that wrestling is still carnival games and hoodwinking people? Like, are we going to act like it's a business or not at some point? We got to eventually act like it is what it is, which is big business, which could be a lot bigger, right?
Right. Could you imagine if they decided to call Tony Khan and say, hey, you know what? Screw this stuff. Let's make some fucking money.
Yeah. I'd be like, that's exactly what I would do. I'm telling you, exactly. If CM Punk shows up backstage at my show, and if he doesn't want to go out there for whatever reason, fine. But I'm asking him. I'm going to be like, hey, you want to call Tony real quick and tell him? Don't ask him, tell him. You know, just because I like to do everything above board. You know, you can ask Brandon, when I have a guest on here, when we have a guest on the Impact Attack, do I not tell you first or run it by you?
Every single time.
Yeah, I don't just be like, oh, so-and-so's coming on today. You know, and we're just Impact Attack. And I know Brandon would be cool with it, but it's a respect thing. So it's same thing I would do there. I'd be like, I would call Tony. It's like, Punk, hand me the phone. Hey, Tony, it's me, Triple H. You know, we're just going to have Punk come out on TV, do big business for you guys, put you guys over, shit on my new championship. You know, whatever it is. Like, you know what I mean? Just a heads up, you know, we're just doing it. We're going to have some fun out there or whatever. Don't worry about it. Not trying to sign anybody, you know. We've already had him. He's a cancer. It's just like, no, you know, just people. It needs to be more. It needs to be bit more like somehow more business oriented, but also more casual at the same time. You know, there's no competition. It really isn't. It's not a competition. People want to say it's not a competition, but they usually say that in reference to the WWE is so big that you can't compete with it, right?
Here's how you compete. Here's how the WWE can compete with itself. Try to make the next show better than the last.
Right. And obviously you won't be able to do that if you have CM Punk on your show. You're not going to be able to follow that up. But you got to take those opportunities when they present themselves. You know, it could be CM Punk this time, and the next time next time you go to, you know, whatever Canadian town, if Kenny Omega's there and he just so happens, because that's the thing, they try what the reason I say this is because and we see this on Impact and we complain about it. It's part of sports entertainment bingo. It's a space on the board. But when we see guys come out, like they'll many times in a wrestling angle, there'll be somebody like getting a beat down or cutting a promo or whatever, and then they'll hit somebody's music and everybody acts all surprised. You know, it's like, but we already know where they've signed that person to a contract, and they're just like, they're trying to surprise us by saying this here. Now, if Triple H is in the middle of the ring and he's got this new stupid championship that he on a table or whatever, and all of a sudden you hear that Cult of Personality hit, then people really are going to be like, what is he doing here? He doesn't work here. Now the announcers can legitimately say these things, and people can legitimately be surprised. Not knowing that, oh, I guess CM Punk signed a new 5-year deal with the WWE because they're hitting his music and pretending that he's not supposed to be here. You know? Like, you're already doing this all the time anyway. Why don't you do it for real one time? Have a pair of balls or whatever, or a pair of big titties, whatever you identify with. Have that. Whatever is your symbol of, like, guts, have that and just do something that you're always trying to act like you're doing, but really do it one time. That's what I'm saying. So that's never going to happen. But what do I know? I'm just some guy, you know? I mean,
or the Kenny Omega idea, have him show up and confront Cody, be like, hey, what the fuck, dude?
Right. What the fuck, dude? I don't know. Oh, we'll see what the chat thinks about all this. Like, for instance, Labrat says, egos will never let this happen on all sides. Yeah, of course. Of course. That's the problem. The egos are buried and steeped in that carny mentality. Like any of that matters, you know? What ego. It's like a lot of pearl clutching, you know? Oh, we could never have another person. We could never have another person on our show. Oh, God. Yeah, you actually really can. You really can. It's very easy. And again, like I said, you're always trying to act like you're having somebody run in that wasn't expected to be there. So, you know, watch nothing happen when you actually do it, if you have the balls to do it. But, yeah. Anyway, speaking of the chat, Brandon, what do you say we acknowledge these people? We've let it go long enough and we let some people file in. So if you want to go ahead and acknowledge some of these lovely, lovely audience members.
Let's see who we got in the house tonight. We got Jerome Hall. We got Elizabeth. We got Big Egg. We got, who else we got? Lab Rat. Javi Uchida. How you guys all doing tonight? Whoop, whoop.
So far, Media M5 was first in the chat, but that was so long ago, he barely even counts. He's not going to show up now. But yeah, he was so early in the chat that when I was streaming earlier today, Buckshot Kid was calling him a mark for being in the chat first. And Buckshot Kid's not even here, so I guess he figured since he wasn't first, there was no point. But I just want to let you guys know that if you show up the night before and put your name in the chat or early in the pre-chat or whatever, as soon as this reservation goes up, that really, you know, that's just unnecessary. You should be here live when the show's going on. So that's where the action's at. But, you know, we got a lot of our main crew here with us now. And some are probably watching Raw too, but that's fine. I know they can't wait to see who's not going to show up on the show and who's going to get drafted to the show only to have a wild card and be able to show up on both shows. I know we're going to do all that. So that's very exciting. But yeah, we'll try to keep you engaged here, even though all we have to talk about is this regular episode of Impact. Nothing particularly noteworthy. I'll say that right off the start. So if you guys have anything else that you want to talk about, you know, at the end of the show, we'll see what we've got. But yeah, I guess we can just get right into it unless there's anything else.
Nah, I mean, other than the draft, but yeah.
Yeah, who cares about that? Yep. Jerome Hall's drafting a ham sandwich. All right, so we're starting off this episode of Impact from is it April 27th? Is that when this took place or when this aired anyway?
That would be correct.
That is correct. And we're going to we got quite a marquee matchup. This is a main event anywhere in the world. It's a rematch of the mighty Masha Slamovich versus Jordan Grace. Yeah, these when these women get in the ring, it's probably going to be a good match. So I didn't really think this was any exception. Did you have any notes or comments or anything you want to talk about this whole thing?
Nah, it's just really weird to think that this is the same Masha we saw like a year ago, who was just plowing through the whole knockouts division, was completely untouchable, unstoppable, and now she's having competitive matches.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Well, maybe, she lost all her momentum, so she's back to regular human and not superhuman, right?
Right. But I think there is possible potential in a double turn with her and Grace.
Oh, you think so, huh? Well, I mean, how would you play that out, or what do you see happening there?
That I'm not sure of. Haven't really thought that far yet.
Mm-hmm.
One idea I thought of was somehow include Gresham in it as well, turn him heel and have them be kind of like a woke power couple.
I see. All right. Okay. Power couple. Both on a lot of gas. There's some power involved there. Not that superhuman lab rat. All right. You know what? I regret saying that. I regret my choice of words.
This is for all the juggalos and juggalettes. Don't try this at home. Whoop whoop.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, as for the match itself, like I said, pretty good. I would just I would like to provide a tip. Because we love Masha here. So, most of everything she does, I really like her psychology and everything. But I noticed there was a thing where she's doing a little like heelish stuff, trying to get a little bit of heat, right? And she's doing stuff like kind of gouging on Jordan's face, So you can see her like kind of like grabbing her nose and shit like that, right? So when you're doing that, like she looks like she's actually like kind of like digging in with the fingers, If you're watching on, YouTube or whatever, you could see me like kind of doing what it looks like she's doing when she's trying to grab onto Jordan Grace, right? But the thing is, you can make it look worse and actually do less if you make sure to, tuck your fingers into that first knuckle, right? So like if I'm fish hooking somebody, I can really fish hook myself, by holding it with my finger, or I can just bend the finger and push back. So now my finger's not in the person's mouth. And you'll see Vin Hamin do this when he, does his camel clutch, the smile maker, whatever he calls it, right? You can knuckle your whole hand, right? And pull it back. And it looks like you're doing the same thing. Same thing with like a mandible claw, you bend your knuckles here and giving away the trade secrets here, showing how the magic trick is done. It'll look the same, but I don't actually have fingers in my mouth, see? Okay, so you can do that when you're raking eyes. You can do that on the nose. You can look like you're pulling somebody's nose up, but you're actually not. But it looks like your fingers are dug into their nostrils because they're bent. So you can look even more vicious and be even safer if you just actually use that little trick. That little sleight of hand trick. And then, for the finish, they do this like extended, I don't know what you want to call this, a rocking chair sequence. It's where they've got each other in like the sunset flip pin position, and they just keep going back and forth, and the referee's trying to count the pin, and they keep going back and forth before he can even really get 2 counts. And then finally, Jordan Grace just folds her over and gets a 3 count. So it's a little anticlimactic, but I mean, I guess it works. I mean, I understand what they're going for, and they're trying to do something different. Doesn't really work for me, but it's better for, I guess, Masha to lose in a quick way like this than to just, get beat flat out with a finish. If you're trying to keep her on that somewhat level of mystique. It's usually how they beat her, if they book her like a monster and beat her with wrestling, which I guess that's how you can do that. But otherwise than that, it's a good match. Do you have anything to add to that, Brandon?
I think that also kind of like it puts it in the image in the people's head of they saw somebody get pinned with that. So if they see that sequence happen again, like, the pin trades, they think that it could actually happen again.
Right. Anytime you see something as a finish anywhere in the world, it's believable as a false finish. But you better, it's more believable as long as you keep it in the same company or whatever. When you tell stories like that, sometimes people aren't paying attention, but for the people that are, it's a nice little, That's why when people always say like, another schoolboy finish, or they make fun of the schoolboy or a roll up or whatever as a finish, and they don't like it. And I remember I used to think that way as a fan too, but it's when you realize that's like, if you ever want to believe it as a false finish, it's got to work at times, Now, is it overused? Yes. Can you almost always tell when it's going to be the finish? Yes. Like you have to telegraph it less, and you have to do it in a way that looks believable. You know, like if you school somebody, you better fold them over, you know? Like you better have their knees by their ears so it looks like they can't get out. That's how you do a schoolboy, not just I'm just holding their leg and they could easily just roll their shoulder off the mat. You know, that doesn't look believable. If you small package somebody, make sure you hook, you cross your legs and make sure it looks like they can't get out. And if you're getting pinned, keep your fucking shoulders down. Keep your shoulders down and don't make the referee look stupid for counting you with your shoulders slightly off the mat or whatever, right? So you do those things, you make those type of pins believable, and you can, that way every time somebody sees a small package or a schoolboy, they think, oh shit, this could be it right here. And that's the idea. But anyway, Labrat says, don't show us the magic tricks. I want to believe. Don't worry, Labrat. Nobody knows the magic tricks, so you'll have plenty of belief when people are really digging their fingers into people's mouths and eyes. And then you'll end up looking like Britt Baker on a t-shirt. But, yeah, so next we get Nick Aldis package, which was, kind of detailing his whole history with TNA and Impact Wrestling, showing from when he first came in. They acknowledged that he used to be called Brutus Magnus and all this other stuff and these championships that he won. I really like this. It had a voiceover. I couldn't quite tell who was doing the voiceover. Maybe somebody that we know. If anybody knows who that was, that person probably needs to be replaced because they don't have a voice for voiceover. But the package was good. I really like this. So if you are just decided you randomly want to watch Impact one day and you don't know who Nick Aldis was and you haven't been following the NWA, this kind of really gives you a good reintroduction to the character, so that even if this is your first show, you're already interested in this guy as like, oh shit, well, I feel like I should have known this guy and it's my fault that I don't know this guy. That's what a good package is supposed to do. I know you can make your own sexual innuendos about what I just said, but in any case, what did you think of the Nick Aldis video package here?
Nah, I dug it. I thought it was a great little just summary of his career to give people who have never heard of him before a quick look at who he is and what he's done.
Yeah. So speaking of the magic being lost, Joe Hendry has a broken nose from his match with Sheldon Jean, I guess they said. That's when it happened. I don't remember any spot in the match where he would have got hit, but I'm sure it's quite possible. Sheldon Jean is pretty rotten, so I can imagine that it's very feasible that somehow a nose could get broken in a match with that guy. So there you go. So yeah. Joe Hendry. Who knows when we'll see him next. Digital media champion, but he'll probably be all right. He should definitely, wear one of those plastic face masks and play it up, work it into his promos about how, he's inspirational for people to work hurt.
I was expecting to turn it into an inspirational, motivational video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sure they didn't have time to do one before the set of tapings was concluded, but maybe next set of tapings we'll see something like that. Let's hope. Let's hope they're as smart as we are. Burt Macklin is in the chat. Has he deserved to not be called Burt Macklin anymore? Should we call him his name now, or should we just get? Oh yeah, all right, you're right. He's Burt Macklin, FBI forever. Yeah, yeah, that's it. So he's in the ring, doing a promo, defending himself. I could guarantee you, no one asked, no one was thinking about him, but he had to come out and say that. He didn't run away. He was doing a tactical retreat, which is military jargon for running away. But he assures you this is not cowardice here. And he actually challenges PCO to come out right now. We don't have to wait for Under Siege. He could come out and get his title shot right now on Impact, even though Macklin is dressed in street clothes. So that should give you a tip off. And but you'll never guess who actually jumps PCO on his way down to the ring. But it's actually Champagne Singh and Mahabali Shera. They jump him. So little Champagne and Shera action, and then they start doing their thing, and then the Director of Authority makes his appearance, and Champagne tries to give him a bribe, and he tells them that they just bought themselves a match as he pockets the money, which is pretty funny. Then we get Champagne Singh versus PCO. Nice little singles match here that I must have been putting my socks on even though I had nowhere to go because I don't remember much of this. What do you got on this?
It's just a get over match with PCO, but at least he didn't do like a lot of the usual stuff that he does to kill himself. Like I think the most crazy thing he did was a moonsault that he went over with.
Yeah. I don't see Singh wanting to do a bunch of stupid shit, right? He's more a gimmick.
I got to thinking, I know this idea is kind of cheesy and a little dumb, but it's better than the whole Frankenstein thing. Is this whole feud with Macklin that he's got? It could be a way to get him out of that whole gimmick and into something different. Like they could play the whole Canada versus America thing and make him perfect Canadian one.
Ooh.
I mean, they got Lance Storm working there. Why not get him involved?
Yeah, let's get Lance Storm out there to do some promos. That's what I want.
Well, I mean, it could be like a throwback to the old, like it actually put like if they could, like you can try to put together kind of like his Team Canada with the Impact Team Canada.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, they have just been doing that a lot, though. That's the only thing. Like recently, they've been, we just had this hardcore war thing, which I didn't want, and they've also had some other allusions to old Team Canada stuff. So I don't know. I don't really personally. I don't really. PCO is such a gimmick. I don't think of him as like a national. Like I don't look at him with like a national affiliation. So even though he is, and we all know he is, I don't know. It's like a U.S. versus Canada thing in 2023. It was already stupid in '98, but we're like, you know what I mean? It's. I guess it could just be another layer to it, but I think maybe it would be good for Macklin to really like play that up and act like it's a thing, and everybody else just kind of treat him like a psychopath for even thinking that, like, dude, what are you talking about? No one cares, and he's just like, this is real, I could see that, something like that, but yeah. Yeah, so, all right, well, yeah, PCO went, he wins with a PCO salt, right? I believe that was the finish. And there we go. So that's supposed to get us more excited. Anything else on this whole thing?
Nah, just, usual championship build stuff.
Yeah. Liz, with the hot news of Pretty Deadly going to SmackDown. All right, the best tag team in the world is now on the biggest wrestling show in the world, so let's hope that they get the correct treatment and don't end up like, basically every other tag team that just gets shit on because they don't care about tag team wrestling. These guys can make a lot of money if they are used correctly.
And Alpha Academy, they broke it up just because Vince thought that storyline with Angle would be funny.
Yeah, who knows what they're doing? Oh god, so bad, so fucking bad. When Impact, like as much as we talk about Impact and what they need to do or what they could do or whatever, and the fact that they have it more together than any other wrestling promotion in the United States, North America, or whatever, it's just pathetic. It's pathetic. I mean, I'm not trying to denigrate Impact, but I'm what I'm really trying to denigrate is the bigger companies that have all these eyeballs on them, and you can't even do what at least Impact is doing. Impact is doing like the baseline level of competency in running a wrestling promotion. Like, yeah, there's things they could do better, but for the most part, it's fine. How can you be worse than that when you've got all these resources at your disposal? I don't know. So, anyway, let's go back to a simpler time, 10 years ago. February 14th, 2013. This is Brutus Magnus versus Christopher Daniels. I don't really remember what the significance of this match was, but it was a match that took place in the United Kingdom at some point, because there was a lot of people very happy to see Magnus get a random win on Christopher Daniels. Unless this was for, I don't remember the context of this. It seemed like he held up a championship afterwards. I don't know if this is like him winning a championship or if this is him retaining a championship, but
Let me double check that, 'cause he might have. I don't want to get this wrong. He might have. I remember he was wrestled for it at some point. I don't know if he got it or not. There might have been the TV title at that time.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, it's fine. As Drone Hall says, a fish versus chips match. Yes. That's delicious, actually. I wish I had some fish and chips ready to go. But I don't. We get a Diener promo with music underneath. So it's like one of their little pre-tapes, with the mood lighting and stuff. But not as moody as before. It's just like, it's almost just like anybody else would get backstage. Like it's just them standing there and saying stuff, but there's music now. So it's not even the old classic, design where it's in the dark and, they're all, they're looking like they're telling campfire stories with a flashlight under their chin or something. It's like just a regular ass, here you go. Here's some guys, but we're going to play some music just so it sounds more ominous. This is the key thing here is that he actually confesses to a crime, right? He ripped out Eric Young's heart and fed it to the wolves. That's what he said. Those are his words. So we've got a confession here. I don't know if any of the police want to get on this. Like, did this happen in Canada? Is it part of the jurisdiction? Like, should we get the Royal Mounted Police on this? Or do we have to wait for them to do that to extradite Diener to the United States to stand trial for his crimes? We've not seen Eric Young anywhere, presumably because he has no heart, and wolves have eaten it. So, I don't know if the authorities are gonna. I'm just saying. Anyway, he claims that murder is just a fraction of what's in store for Sami Callihan. So, I guess he's going to feed the rest of Sami to wolves, which let me tell you, any pack of wolves that have to eat all of Sami Callihan, they're going to get full way before they finish the job. I'm just telling you that right now. I don't care how big the pack of wolves is or how long they haven't eaten. They're not going to be able to finish their plate if they start eating Sami Callihan. So, this could take a few feedings, is what I'm trying to say.
I thought it was funny in the promo. He said that he trusted, like he openly admitted trusting Sami Callihan, and it's just like, what kind of cult leader are you? You're going to trust that dude?
Yeah.
Okay, like in character wise, like seriously?
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. Labrat says, so he feeds him to Fat Eddie and Davey Richards. Okay, yeah, that's right. I'm saying, even if Fat Eddie's he's gonna have to, if you try to feed Sami Callihan to Fat Eddie, he's still gonna need to make up Lish a plate, like she's gonna still get a good meal that day. It's a lot. It ain't happening. I don't know if Davey Richards, I don't know if with the allegations, I don't know if he's got to get, if he's got to get his meals inspected delivered to him, wherever he's at. If you know what I mean. Don't know, but yeah. So I don't know. My takeaway was that he confessed. So that's all I'm really interested in. We'll see how they follow it. More evil people. The Coven. They're sitting around and they're reciting the opening to the Last Airbender with music underneath. It's not the actual Avatar music, but they are running through the elements. So they put a curse on Deanna. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, man. I don't really know. Witches are hot right now, man. The NXT Women's Tag Team Champions just got drafted, so we got those witches on national cable programming, and then we got, what I'm saying? We got the Coven out here doing their thing on their limited cable programming, so I don't know, man. Witches. Liz says, so I'm thinking he committed the crime in the zone of death where they can't charge you with a crime because you can't be tried by your peers. Ooh. I don't know. We still have some video evidence, but not really. I don't know if they can. It's weird.
Or you know what? You think that could be a spot in the death realm?
You think they'll find Eric Young in the in the undead realm?
Could be.
Just bring him back out, and that's how he makes his comeback. Might as well. Yep. Lara says, so they did this crime in the NXT parking lot? That's that zone. But you could be tried by your peers there, so I don't know. Speaking of peers, you say the word peers, and look who appears. It's the great Pierce Austin. Pierce appears.
Name and he appears.
I believe in Pierce Austin. Yes. All right. From way down under, Pierce Austin. Love Pierce Austin. Looking forward to appearing on an episode of Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I will be on that episode. It'll be coming out soon, so keep your eyes peeled. Follow Pierce on all the social medias. And if you just can't get enough vet, there's a couple, and about an hour and a half more of me coming your way soon, courtesy of Pierce. So thanks again, Pierce, for having me. It was a blast. I've been promoting the episode, but I haven't given away one iota of what we talked about. You're gonna have to listen for yourself and find out what we had on our chat. So, yeah. Let's see here. So yeah, just anything else on the Coven before we move on?
Nah, just a maintenance promo.
Maintenance promo. It should have been that would have been good. A maintenance promo. It would have been good if like a janitor with a mop just came through and was like, "Excuse me, ladies." So Johnny Swinger and Zicky come out, and this is what we were waiting for, and I believe this is exactly what we knew was the only logical route that they could go down with this, which is that a luchador is like Zicky's getting ready to introduce a luchador, and he has to go backstage to physically get him, I guess, and then all of a sudden El Dinero Co appears. So good rib there on both El Generico and a pun. I don't know who this could have been in this mask, but he comes down, and one Maestral Cradle later, Johnny Swinger's on the board with his first of 50 necessary victories to get a title shot. And then, of course, they have a camera waiting for the reconvening behind the curtain, in which we find out that, oh my God, who the hell was El Dinerico after all, Brandon?
It was Zicky.
Oh my God, really? This was like, this would have been like if CM Punk walked out on Raw that time. You know, like you could not believe that this was actually Zicky Dice the whole time. Like we said. So, yeah, they immediately discuss this, and Santino is right there. Come on, I saw your face. You know, so there's that. Yeah, this, you know, this played out exactly as we could have. I mean, I don't know if I would have done it right here, even though we all knew. Maybe I could have extended this, but it's funny nonetheless. What do you have to say about all this whole segment, top to bottom?
Ooh, yeah, give you an idea of he could have gotten like 50 fluke wins after, or 49 fluke wins after that. And then at some point, like, he lets it slip that it was Zicky underneath that wing, and that one, like, oh, that nullifies your 49 wins.
Right. Could be. They could have done that. Although that's a long game. That's a really long game. That's a year. It's a year of content. So, yeah, definitely. It could have been like a different luchador every time. Only reason you can't do that, in my opinion, I mean, obviously in pro wrestling, logic is not important. No one gives a shit about making sense at all. I mean, for example, WWE World Heavyweight Championship. No one cares about making sense. No one cares about burying your talent or, you know, your long-term angles. No one cares about that. Just do it. So the only pushback I would have is that, like, you can't just keep having either the same luchador or multiple luchadors come out and pretending that Scott D'Amore or Santino Marella or anybody, like, just keep signing guys that they have no idea that who they are, where they were, you know, like that they're recognizing all these wins when it's clearly Zicky Dice, you know? So that's the only pushback I would have. But since we don't care about things that are actually important, why not? Why not do it?
Yep. But is this the end for Swinger's Dungeon? Because he pretty much fired Zicky after that.
I hope so. God, I hope so. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, regardless of what anybody wants to say, if you want to reach a wider audience, I guarantee you the way to not do it, even in 2023, is to keep making S&M jokes on your wrestling show. That's the best way to ensure that you will stay small. Just ask NWA how their business is going right now, ever since, you know, their whole what's that guy? I don't even want to put the guy over, but you know who. So but you know how you can reach real eyeballs? BTI. That's the show that all the true fans are checking out. So we see a little bit of footage of Kenny King beating some guy named Decker. It's referred to as Decker. That's all we hear. I don't know who this person is. I didn't bother to look up his full name. It's just somebody named Decker. So he hits the Royal Flush on Decker, which is funny because Royal Flush, his name is Deck. That's funny to me. Anyway, sure, it's just a coincidence, but nonetheless, afterwards, they show some Todd Brantley in the house says, chanting Decker. And also, don't get him started on the NWA. Don't worry, Todd, we won't. You can stay unstarted on the NWA, please. So they do this thing where afterwards backstage, Decker says something that I'm sure anybody in his position on any wrestling show across the world would actually say, where he says he's kind of in a shoot character where he says, thanks, I learned a lot, being in the ring with you or whatever, and Kenny King's like, You learn a lot from getting your ass kicked. He's like scoffing at the kid, so he's playing it up, the way a heel should act if anybody actually tried this, and, saying, dismiss yourself from the king's presence, which is a great line. Yeah, that was funny. That was like a little commentary on the business. So I don't know if Impact's the one to be making those commentaries, because they do business exposing shit all the time. Like, is it more important to take shots at guys who are like, independent wrestlers who are kind of expose themselves on social media, being thankful for matches? Is it important to take shots at those guys? Or is it more important to get shit like, teleporting into otherworldly realms over? Is that really where you want to draw the line, at your shots on the business? So, I don't know. That's just me. But anyway, Kenny King sits down next to Sheldon Jean on a couch, and basically is saying, like, he sees some potential there, and Sheldon's kind of like, what's in this for you, kind of a thing, like not trusting Kenny as he shouldn't. And Kenny's like, don't worry about what's in it for me, what's in it for you, so there's a little seed planted. Will we have a protege? Will Kenny be able to get Sheldon the help that he needs for that lump or that growth on his collarbone or whatever? Like, can he hook him up with some good medical care for that? I know the healthcare's free in Canada where Sheldon's from, but like, it's not necessarily the best situation. So maybe Kenny's got it in for some medical facilities down here in the States. I don't know. We can only imagine how Sheldon can take advantage of what Kenny's offering here. But anyway, that's basically the scene that I've set out before you. What'd you think of this? And do you see a potential in Sheldon Jean as a Kenny King protege?
I mean, I could see it. It's just Sheldon still needs more work in the ring, but he's got charisma and character.
Right. I mean, he's going to hurt you. He's going to break your nose, but as long as he's got charisma and character. So. Well, take it from a Canadian. Healthcare sucks in Canada. Buckshot Kid just putting it straight out there. Just cuz right to the point, as Buckshot Kid often does. So next is the Design versus ABC, which is, of course, Ace and Bay Club or whatever. They call it Ace and Bay Connection, but I don't know how you miss the C being for club, We used to have a C on this show, and we replaced it with a better C. And now that C is part of the C. And he's trying to get over, but he's not. And the answer's still no. So, yeah. What'd you think of this tag team match, Playa?
I'm glad they actually had a spot where, like, what was it? They're doing the dives onto Decon. They actually had Diener get involved instead of to stand there like, oh, they're going to keep hitting my guy, and I'm just going to stand here and watch him.
Yeah, I had a note for that, and I was just going to say that, like, even though they did that, he already still looks stupid just standing there taking it repeatedly, So, but yeah, go on.
And then they actually, like, used psychology in a dive spot where they actually, like, took several dives to get the big man down, went for the big one, cut off, dip, go back to it, then get him down.
Right. Yep.
Granted, didn't really amount much, but at least it was actually like psychology.
Right. Yeah, it's when they apply psychology, but it's just not enough. Because like we said, like that requires Khan to still just stand there and wait for the guys. Now he's trying to sell like he's, staggering back or whatever, but it's like, if you would just move like slightly to your left or right, as as you're staggering. Like, you don't have to stagger directly backwards and then back forwards again. You could perhaps wander over to the side, so you just look like a dumbass, you know. And even if he did that, like, are you telling me that if he like staggered over to the left, that or right, that one of them couldn't have ran up the turnbuckle and jumped over the post on him too? You know, like he saying like, "Oh, I think I'm safe over here," but then they go after him and get him. Like, but then you can't get your shit in with the Cody spot. You know what I mean? Like the Diener spot. You can't do that if you do that. But it's just, I don't know. They do these things that's like almost creative, and they're just still not creative enough. You know, guys, you don't have to get tied into doing the same old shit that you always do or that you always see people do. There's ways to apply new psychology to things. Do something you haven't seen before. You know, do something that makes sense. Think about it. Think about what would happen if you were really trying to do what you were doing. And then build a spot out of that. You know? That's my advice. I think it's good advice. It's what I always tried to do during my active periods. I'd try to think of like what cliches can I avoid today? You know, because I wasn't the type of person that was like had moves that I tried to get in. I didn't know any moves. You know, I didn't do moves. You know, so like, you know, if I'm keeping it very basic, then what's going to make my match any different? You know, I have to think of ways to like just not do what other people are doing for the most part. That's what I tried to do. I'm not going to say I succeeded all the time, but you know, when you guys have a platform and you have a chance to do something interesting and new, you know, take it. That's all I'd say. All right. Anything else? Oh shit. Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Brandon? All right. Well, the mic is out, so you're gonna have to maybe just might have to I don't know, try to see if you can restart something or whatever. And yeah, we've lost you guys. Yeah. The chat is saying that we can't hear you, so this damn mic. These damn computers and this damn technology. It sucks. So while Brandon is adjusting, I'll just kind of, you know, I'll fly solo for a moment. After this match, which I believe, yeah. So Diener gets involved with the spot like we talked about, where he kind of, nope, not hearing it. Yeah, we can see that Brandon is losing pixels, right? We see his quality degrade in real time. So this was happening to me earlier during my stream, where I was getting my upload choked. So could just be a router reset problem. That's what I did. I reset my router and I went from 1 up to 40 up. So anyway, yeah, so Callahan comes out, attacks Diener. Sorry, can't hear you, brother. Can't hear you. Try see if resetting your router might help. Cuz your whole image quality is down, everything's down. So you might need like a router reset. So try unplugging the router and plugging it back in. That should work. And if it doesn't, then we'll see. But anyway, yeah, so as Brandon is doing that, we're going to probably lose him for a second. So yeah, Callahan attacks Diener, and then while Diener's otherwise distracted, can't help anymore, Angels gets folded and that's the end of the match. No real follow-up post-match. They didn't really show what Callahan was doing or whatever. It was just ABC up. And of course, Alan Angels, or just Angels, has not won a match to date, I don't think. Next, we have Dr. Cadaver and Dango check on Santino, who has been attacked backstage. They ask him if he got a look at if they got a look at who took him out. And he's got a he's got a tuft of hair. So with that tuft of hair, Dango relinquishes his deputy director spot and becomes Detective Dango. So there you go. Detective Dango. That is a good spot for him. It's a good callback to his, what do you call it? The Fashion Files days. And just more on-screen comedy for him, which is, in his wheelhouse. Should be plenty of entertaining content forthcoming with Dango. Buckshot Kid suggesting to microwave the router for 5 minutes. Should be pretty good. Speaking of pretty good, all right, this is not really pretty good. I just tried to have a transition and I can't. Death Dolls reunite with Crazy Steve. And as they're doing this, they have a little pop-up ad for an episode of Diary on YouTube, on the Impact YouTube channel, where it's a Rosemary episode. So I was like, what the hell is this? I had not really seen this before, or if I had seen a promo for the Diary series or something, I may have just ignored it. But here I decided, okay, let me go over here real quick and see what's going on. So it's just like a series, like a sit down and shoot kind of profile series. So this is where we're talking about Rosemary and her, introduction into the business. They're talking about, her showing up at Scott D'Amore's school and training, and just a lot of people, her earlier gimmick and everything like that. So, I watched about 5 minutes of it to get the idea. It's like, all right, I ain't watching this. So yeah, basically little profile series. But if you are interested in things like that, learning more about the talents from a shoot perspective, then go ahead and check out the Impact YouTube channel and the Diary playlist. I'm sure they've got a bunch of people on there. So I'm going to say that this is not a great idea for the Undead Demon chick, Liz says. And I tend to agree, especially she's doing this. She's telling about her real life. And, but she's sitting down for this interview with her makeup on. So she's sitting there being honest about her, struggles with mental health and
check.
Hey, look who's back.
Is it working?
It's working.
All right.
So is that indeed what the issue was, I suppose?
Yep, reset the router.
Sometimes you just got to reset that router, It's funny, I don't have the same provider as you. I'm in a different part of the country as you, and I was doing something different than this, but somehow my uploads went down to a 1. And I'm just like, what is going on here? But hey, so basically to catch you up, I skipped over the Santino and Dr. Cadaver and Detective Dango skit, but did you have anything you wanted to add on that?
I wonder, is this setting up bringing in Tyler Breeze?
Well, he is Canadian.
And that was their gimmick back in WWE.
Right. Let's do it. Let's bring him in. Although I think I still see Tyler like on WWE stuff sometimes, whether it's like Was it one of the up down downs recently or something? Like he's I think he's still like hanging around there, but I don't know if he's got like a real job or if they just bring him in like whatever.
Yeah, but is that WWE show or is that like Xavier Woods' show?
Well, it's WWE. I think controls it. Like that was part of the. He has to cede some ownership to them. Even his like because even his like if you look in the WWE 2K23, like the up down down championship is in there as a championship you can win in the belt section. So like they own some part of it. And Liz says Breeze is signed as a legend for WWE, that's kind of funny to think about. It's just the terminology they use, but you know. So yeah, there you go. So yeah, there's that. But let's hope they bring him in. Let's just fucking bring him in. Who cares? This will be like what my idea was about CM Punk. You know, just Tyler Breeze showing up on Impact. So, yeah. So Detective Dango, and then I was talking about how the Death Dolls and Crazy Steve reunited backstage, and then I was also going into a side thing about because they showed that little pop up about the diary on YouTube of Rosemary, and I was explaining because I clicked on it. I was like, okay, what is this? And it's just like a profile piece about 25 minutes or something like that, where they basically just do a profile on this person and they talk about, you know, things in a shoot format. So even though she's got her makeup on, she's still sitting there just talking normally and shooting on her entire life and career and, you know, whatever. So I don't know. There you go. What have you been, what have you thought of that? Do you think they should take an undead demon character and just be like, yeah, I just started out going to Scott D'Amore's school and what is that?
Yeah, not while she's actually actively doing the character.
Yeah, I don't know. Does it count doing the character just because you have your face painted? Did she do a face paint just for this, or did she did she get ready to do it for the taping and then they just filmed this first so she didn't have to put it on twice? Like what is it? I don't know. Larat says he wants to feel sorry for the demon chick. Go ahead, feel sorry for her. Hear about the demon chick struggles with depression and everything. It's like I'm not trying to take shots at Rosemary. I like Rosemary. It's just more of a open-ended question. Like, look, we know the toothpaste can't go back in the tube. We all know what wrestling is. We're sitting here exposing the business. I just showed you how to fish hook a guy. You know, like we know that the shit isn't real, but it's got to be real on the program, in my opinion. Now, this isn't on the program, so that falls into my... You know, I don't think anybody's going to have their illusion shattered. If they're watching Impact, they see this little thing pop up in the corner, say, oh, Diary of Rosemary on YouTube, on Impact channel. Let me go check that out. And then they're like, oh my God, she's a real person? I can't believe this. Well, surely the Santa Claus is still real, right? Like there's nobody that really is going to have their world rocked by seeing this if they go check it out. We just can't have her break it on the program. On the program, she's got to be the undead demon chick. And even though I have my reservations about, that's putting it diplomatically, my reservations about doing supernatural shit as part of the show, I don't mind the character. If the character, this is the key thing. And I feel like I have to explain this from time to time because sometimes I see comments or whatever from listeners. They're like, well, what about when so-and-so? And I'm like, yeah, but the thing is, like, I'm not necessarily okay with those things just because I don't bring them up in the specific instances I'm talking about. But if you're, let me just make the delineation very, very clear. If you believe in your mind that you are a demon, or that you can transfer between realms or whatever other things, and this is some form of mental illness that you have that adds flavor to your wrestling character, that is fine. If that's part of your presentation, your look, your gear, all that stuff, if that's flavoring for your character, fine. If you are teleporting on camera and the other wrestlers are with it and they're making, like, they're in on it, like, yes, she is really teleporting to undead realms and this isn't just a form of mental illness, that's not okay. Because you have no reason why you cannot, further take these supernatural powers and then add them to your wrestling match. Who's going to be able to beat a teleporting wrestler? It just, you cannot do that. There's a ceiling that you reach with your in-ring performance in front of a paying audience. You can't do special effects live. Like, you can, but there have to be practical effects. You can't do, CG or other camera tricks and stuff like that in a live wrestling setting. They didn't even do it in Lucha Underground, right? Like, Lucha Underground had special effects, storylines, impossible characters, and then in the actual wrestling portion, they had wrestling matches. No effects, no nothing. So that disconnects the audience. It's like you set the expectations up and then all you get is a wrestling match. So you have to work knowing that your ceiling of creativity is a wrestling match. Always. That's my mantra. That's my belief. That's my psychology. You can have your opinions on it, but I'm right. There's just no other way to say it. So, any thoughts on what I just said?
I mean, I'm kind of in the camp of what Ben says when he says the work can survive anything. It just has to make sense.
Well, Ben's wrong. Because he wants to complain about things like Braun Strowman dressing up like Wonder Woman, which doesn't matter. But he's totally okay with things like the final deletion or whatever Bray Wyatt does or shit like that, which is not okay. It's just not. It's not okay. It's not pro wrestling. Pro wrestling is something different. But I understand when creative people want to make wrestling something it's not. Because if they don't, then what use is there for them in the wrestling business? Like, Ben Hameen is not Shawn Michaels, so he can't give that aspect to professional wrestling. He has ideas, he's creative, he comes up with things, and he wants to make the television show entertaining. I understand that, but you still can be entertaining and creative and give people things without breaking the idea of reality. Like I said, if Rosemary looks the same, acts the same, everything else, that gets to be her on-screen character. But we have to think of ways to integrate that into the backstage settings where she's not doing things that can't be done. See what I mean? It's fine for her to talk about going to the undead realm. We can't see the undead realm. We can't see that. That's got to be in her mind, And then when she goes into it and it looks like the fucking forest from Mortal Kombat 2 or whatever, like, you can't, it's like, okay, but we know that you can't, I'm sorry, no, you can't. I can't believe sometimes I hear myself saying what I'm saying. But anyway, well, funny enough, kind of to that same point, she's like, when she sees Crazy Steve backstage after all this time, she's like, where have you been? It's like, what? He's been at the same shows you've been at, bitch. He's out there with Taurus. Like, have you not been watching? He's been there. What do you mean, where have you been? That's the kind of dumb shit I'm talking about. Like, what the fuck do you mean, where have you been? He walked in with a rolling case. Just like you did. That's where he's been. God, dude. That's what I'm saying. So, Anyway, to put a button on this, Crazy Steve knows that Rosemary knows what she needs to do to go back to the undead realm. So we're probably going to see the Mortal Kombat 2 forest again. So anyway, what that is, he does not explicitly state, but she agrees that she knows what she has to do, and she hates that Steve is always right, is basically what she's saying.
I think they actually said the guys she has to talk to James Mitchell.
No, she said that she didn't want to do that, and he wasn't any help. Like when he brought that up, that she was like, we tried everything, and then we even tried James Mitchell, but that goes nowhere. Or some, whatever she said, that was something to that effect. Some excuse why he's not going to be there. Right? So he's like, you know what we got to do. And she's like, damn it, I know. So what that is, we're going to have to tune in and find out. So in the interest of baiting the hook, they did their job here. So we'll see what we catch next week. Anything else on this whole sordid ordeal?
I wonder if Rosemary's comment about Taya being in a place of her own personal hell is a shot at AEW.
Could be. Yeah. Let's see. All right, Jody Threat versus who the fuck is? How do you say this? Silesia? Do you remember how the announcer pronounced this?
I have no idea. All I remember is that her name was Sparks. I immediately thought, wait a minute, is this the same Kayla Sparks that Ben's been talking about?
It is not.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. No, this is another Sparks, possibly related. Yeah. Silesia, Caesarea, whatever it is. I'm just like, if I'm having trouble recalling this hours after seeing it, and I wrote it down and made sure to spell it the way you spelled it on the screen, and I still not sure exactly how to say it, and I can't trust the Impact announcers because they could have got it wrong. You might want to think into getting a new working name, kid. Just saying. Like, don't make it hard for people. You want to have something catchy and memorable and easy to say, I think. The only time I would suggest going with something that may be difficult is if that's your shoot name and you're going with a shoot name gimmick. That's just how it is. But I don't know. This must be a shoot name because I don't know how you come up with it. Anyway, this match was a little bit better than last time we saw Jody Threat, but I think the jury's still out. Because it's just, I don't know. I'm just not seeing enough to make an endorsement or a condemnation one way or the other. So I wouldn't mind seeing more Sparks though. I mean, she seemed like she had a look, and she seemed like she had some emotion, and she did her job well of trying to, we're obviously trying to spotlight Threat here. So I felt like they kind of did that. I'm just not sure, with a trained eye, how good Jody Threat is. I need to see Jody in there with somebody I know what they can do. Then I can see if she can keep up or whatever. That's what I think. But what do you think?
I mean, yeah, we do need to see a lot more out of Jody. This match in particular, it should have been more just a showcase for her strength and power rather than Sparks getting she got a lot on her.
Yeah. Think it was too much?
I do, yeah.
Okay. Well, sometimes, when you're in these situations where you're like, okay, I'm the one that's supposed to get over, but I kind of gotta showcase the other person a little bit in case, they want it to look like I actually beat somebody that we've never seen before. Like, we have to make them credible in 5 minutes. I mean, it's one of those challenges. It's like what we were talking about last week when I was talking about the situation Jay White got put in with Commander, where it's like they want to spotlight Commander. They also want you to look good and go over. Good luck. It's like 10 minutes, good luck. So when you're given that as an assignment, and you look at it that way from our perspective, like, I mean, yours and mine, we're looking at that. The fans are only seeing like, well, I thought Jay White was supposed to be a big deal. He didn't look like a big deal. That's how they see it. In something like this, it's similar. It's like Jody's the spotlight. We want her to be something. She's the one that got vignettes. On the other hand, just running over this random person we've never seen before and we can't pronounce her name, that doesn't do Jody any favors whatsoever. It's not going to tell us anything more about her. It's like you beat a nobody in no time, so that doesn't tell us anything. So it's one of those situations where Sparks has got to get something in to look like somebody so that when Sparks goes over, it looks like she beat somebody. This is very inside baseball, what we're talking about right now. And I'm just saying, I'm not sure if they did or didn't pull it off. I guess it was fine. I just know it was better than the last time we saw a threat, which we were also not impressed. So I don't know if we can credit Sparks with that, or that's why I said I wouldn't mind seeing more of her, because even if she's not only because she's wearing very little clothing and she's got the body for it, but if she can do this for somebody else, or if she can be a spotlight, we could see. Probably just a local talent we'll never see again, but in any case, Jody Threat goes over with her, whatever move she has. What move does she have? I don't remember. Do you remember? She does some move.
Oh, it's like a reverse. It's like a F5 they land on their back instead of their face.
Ah, yes, the reverse F5.
Yeah,
the 5F.
Yeah, she calls it the F and whatever the area code for Toronto is.
Oh, that's right. What is that area code? I forget. What's the area code, Buckshot Kid? I'm sorry, I forgot. 6 something? Don't they call Toronto the 6? 416?
Yeah, that's what it is. The F416.
That's very confusing. We're the 6. Oh. 6 what? Well, actually 416. Oh. Okay. Anyway, so enough dunking on Toronto. Yeah, the match was what it was. I'm sure Jody Threat's going to be sticking around, or maybe she's just stopping over while they're over there. Like maybe she's not going to travel to the U.S. and maybe we're not going to see her, playing Uno with CM Punk backstage, whatever. Next we get a vignette with Kelly, Killer Kelly, if you will. She has found the perfect playmate, according to herself, in her Matryoshka, Masha.
This was the best thing that Killer Kelly's done since she's been in Impact. Like, for the first time, I actually, she told us a little more about who she is and what her motivations are and why she's interested in Masha.
Yeah. And she made it sexy.
She did.
It's always about sex with her. Killer Kelly always wants to have sex. They should call her Sexer Kelly.
I was wondering, is there a little... You've seen the movie GoldenEye, right?
Yes.
Does she remind you a little bit of Xenia Onatop?
Onatop?
Yeah.
You're supposed to say Onatop. That's because that's the line. But yes. I guess, that person that sort of gets off on violence like that. They don't really, there's only so many ways they could play that up in a match, but I don't really see her doing that much. It's just usually a lot of her slinking around the ring and smiling at stuff, which looks weird with her mouth guard in, but that's fine. Yeah, we're not really getting it as over as much as we could, but it's still, like you said, it's better than, seedy motel vignettes that have nothing to do with wrestling. So, say that about her like it's a bad thing. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing. It just depends on what you're into. Also, I said a lot of stuff, so I don't know exactly what you're commenting on. But, um, yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. Fine with it. Just, you know, we're never gonna get the payoff of, or are we? Could we have a sexy vignette where the Matryoshka ends up with Killa Kelly in one of these seedy motels? Maybe having a continental breakfast, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, I'll leave you guys to think about that and the possibilities, and we'll move over to Frankie Kazarian with Gia and music underneath, because this is not just a normal interview with Gia in front of the Impact sign. This is a sit-down, pre-taped interview, and they are playing music underneath it, and I don't like it, because the reason that you do something like this is, I mean, can you hazard a guess, Brandon, as to what I'm about to say? Like, why would you play music underneath a pre-taped interview?
To set a tone, set a mood.
Right. That's something that you could do. Here's the real reason they do it. Because they fucking don't think that you have the attention span to just sit and listen to two people talk. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to heighten the tone of the scene to make it seem more exciting. Like, hey, there's music going on. It's like it's there almost as like a, it's supposed to lift up the conversation or something. You know, try to make conversation exciting with music, with background music. This is really the reason that you would always do this. Like you said, setting a tone. The tone is, you know, whatever it is. They play exciting music during movies when there's something exciting happening. They play sad music when something sad happens. They play, you know, whatever. So whatever it is to fit the scene. But if the scene is two people having a conversation, the focus should be the conversation. If you're trying to just make the conversation more exciting or interesting or whatever this is, just add a mood to it, you don't really need to. It makes it sound, you know, artificial is what it makes it sound like. Because you don't see this. Like, if you're doing something like this for Monday Night Football, where you're having an interview with a person, are they playing music during it? I mean, like, when do you see this other than when they have no confidence in what people are saying? They're like, you gotta have music, you gotta have a soundtrack to this. So, Labrat says, just looks and sounds like they want the talent to wrap up the interview. Yeah, wrap that shit up, B. Yeah. But anyway, that's why I always make that running joke of, you know, so and so with Gia and no music underneath, because they used to do that when she was sitting there, you know, with the mic, like, hi, I'm Gia and I'm gonna talk to this person for a second. Person, what do you got to say about this or whatever? And they're playing music underneath that. They're playing like the Impact We Own the Night theme song underneath the fucking interview of that's supposed to be happening live. It's like, that is the most JoJo thing you could possibly do. And we called it out so many times, they eventually stopped doing it. Like, yeah, I'm taking credit for that. That was us, you know? We got that shut off. We also got the lights turned off, apparently. I'm not going to brag on it too much because I don't want them to get upset and put them back on out of spite. So if we see any lights in Chicago, it's probably going to be because, you know, we've discussed how there haven't been any lights. So I'm trying to keep that low key if I can and not talk about it on Twitter or anything like that. I'm taking a soft win. But we did get the music turned off, right? So I'm just extending that and reminding that, like, we don't need that. If Frankie Kazarian, what he's saying here, talking about his beginnings with Impact, you know, like what it was like when he came in, what it's like now, saying he didn't want to become one of those veterans who was clinging to their spot, as they reference all these guys coming in They show like the footage of like the Kevin Nashes and the Booker T's and all this stuff as he's saying this. Like they're telling their story here, and that story's good enough. They got good video packaging, right? You show these old clips. Frankie's not saying anything that we wouldn't want to hear, and he's just being honest or whatever, or their version of working honest. I don't need a soundtrack for that. Do you?
Nope, that's plenty interesting enough.
So anyway, that's what I think. And I like this too, just like I like the it was very similar to the Nick Aldis package, but it was way different because that was a package and that was done and produced differently. This was a sit-down interview that was also pre-produced, but it was now had a more live feel to it. So except for the shitty music, this seemed like something that was happening in the moment, and it's giving you a little bit more on Frankie Kazarian to make us interested in him. I thought mission accomplished here, but turn that music off. Anything else on this?
No, I thought it was interesting enough. I thought it was funny though. They showed the clip of Hogan dragging Dixie while hanging to his leg.
Right. Symbolic.
There's a lot of Dixie on the show in those packages in the interview.
Well, I mean, she did exist. It's better than the WWE way of editing around people to make it seem like they never existed.
Yeah.
So I'll take it. Labrat says, I also think we help feed Alicia. I think we do too. We can't see the results always, but we can hope. All right, then your main event. Looks like there's been enough talk. It's time for the main event of Taylor Wilde, the People's Witch, versus the Virtuosa, Deonna Purrazzo. This was for the Knockouts title, wasn't it?
Correct, yeah, because they're making jokes about, or not jokes, but references about how Taylor could become a champ after the match.
Okay. Well, I didn't see anything offensive in this match. The outcome was mostly inevitable, which in this case was that Deonna goes over with the Venus de Milo, right? I think it was the Venus,
yep.
Which is when she gets both arms locked up. That's such a great name for a move.
And it's the perfect move to call it that too.
Yep. So, yeah. Now, the only other thing they could have done is
that's what I'm saying, Jerome.
Yeah, I'm not there yet. Don't worry, I was gonna finish with that. So, yeah, nothing. Like I said, nothing offensive. The only other way they could have done this differently is, some finish where there's like a interference and a DQ or whatever keeps the belt on Deonna. But whatever reason, they wanted to establish, her championship with a clean finish on a champion. So it gets her over. It doesn't hurt Taylor as much because she's not, you could make the argument that, being a tag team wrestler has reduced her effectiveness in a singles capacity if you want to go that route. So it makes sense, but still a good credible win for Deonna. It's a good spotlight for the tag team champions, showing they're at a main event level. So all around, it's fine. Whatever they choose to do with the finish is fine. Except for having Taylor win, of course. That probably wouldn't have been fine. That would have been very problematic. But, yeah. Kylan King jumps in immediately after the finish and starts kicking the shit out of Deonna. So Jordan Grace comes down, makes a save. Then we get a nice sportsmanlike handshake between Deonna and Grace. So a little out of character for Deonna, but what else can you do? You just saved your ass. So there you go. And she celebrates as Jordan walks up the ramp. Looks very familiar to the end of the actual pay-per-view that she won the title, right? You see Jordan walking up the ramp and Deanna celebrating in the ring. In the same building. So, there you go. Yeah, thoughts on all this? Not all this, but all this.
I like the story they told of just building up, or Deanna working the arm and goes over with the Venus de Milo. I mean, just good basic storytelling. Went way too long, though. I mean, there's couple matches that went too long. This one, Masha and Jordan went too long. But we had no Moose, no X Division champion, no X Division. Tag team title match could have went a little shorter too.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the match itself went, it was pretty decent.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, if you're going to have a show and you're not going to have Moose on it, I'm not going to be happy. And this is happening more frequently, as we've discussed. Now, I know that people like to say less is more, but that's not the case. When we're talking about Moose, that's not the case. Now, even though I would be fine with the whole show being based around Moose every week and Moose plastered all over it and Moose on commentary and Moose doing ring announcing and Moose doing Gia's job backstage and Moose having a match and Moose refereeing a match and all this and Moose taking Scott D'Amore's headset. Like, I'd be fine with all this every single week. But I also realized that maybe that's a little overkill. So, in that sense, scaling back Moose and having him do just what's required for the show is fine. But what's required for the show is fucking something. Something. One thing. Whatever that may be. If it is just a quick interview with Gia to get some business over, or if it's a backstage, interaction between, him and whatever talent. Doesn't even have to be somebody that he's involved with. If Moose passes through somebody he's seen and says some Moose stuff, then that's fine too. Like if Moose was the proverbial janitor in the Coven segment, like not that he would have the mop or anything, but that he comes through and just like, what are y'all white women doing or whatever? Just whatever Moose might say, it's up to him. I'm just using placeholder dialogue, but just, I want to know that he's there. And that's the key for any wrestling weekly television show, company, whatever. Remind everybody who your players are, even if they don't have a super featured, segment on the show. But just go like, oh yeah, Moose exists. And then at the very least, if we don't even get that, like we were complaining when we were just getting that, when Moose was doing just that. And now we're getting shows with zero Moose. It's like they feel like they filled their Moose quotient. It's like, oh, well, Moose had a match with full entrance last week, so that's good. We're good for another couple weeks. No. No, you're not. Edit this show better. Distribute the Moose evenly among the tapings, if you must. I would rather, as ridiculous as this sounds, I would rather have you show half a Moose match one week and show the finish the next week, rather than have no Moose at all. God damn it. So, anyway. Yeah. So, the Moose. Can't call it that with no Moose.
Needs more Moose.
Right. Guys, got a fever. I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like everybody else. Only difference is when I do it, I book Moose on Impact. There you go. There you go. Now let's read everything that the chat said. Jerome says, where the F is Moose? Todd Brantley says, no Moose is no bueno. Jerome says, just give me a little Moose. Buckshot Kid says, just have Moose holding a coffee in the background. Todd Brantley, Moose the janitor. Lab Rat, just have Moose doing Moose things. Jerome saying, give me Moose or death. I hope it's Moose. Cooking with Moose, making mousse, but spelled like, the pudding dessert. All of these things. All Moose all the time, said Liz. Come on. Let the man earn his money. He wants to earn his money. Let him earn his money. With that being said, I think we've earned our money here today. We've had a good long show, and I hope we delivered. I hope you enjoyed it. I think it's time, though. I think it's time we move on. So, Brandon, would you like to tell the people, the lovely people, who we have so much fun doing this show for and with, where they can find you in all of your endeavors, moose related or otherwise?
So you can catch me moose hunting on Twitter at Transarchistia. I also do more moose hunting on Twitch at Miss Tia the Transarchist. And of course, we feature moose here every Monday night on the Impact Attack right here on the Hami Media Group YouTube channel.
AKA the Moose Moose. We haven't called it the Moose Moose in a long time, and that's because Impact has failed us. So while we're getting small wins here and there, whether it's no music underneath Gia's interviews or, no RGB lighting and backgrounds, we'd trade it all for a little more moose. That being said, you can find me at Opinion Haver on all your favorite social media platforms, which includes twitch.tv as well. That's Opinion Haver. Just Google me. I'm famous. I'm not really famous. That's just a line somebody said once. I'm a much more famous person. But yes, twitch.tv/Opinion Haver. You can hang out and talk to me while I play games. The games are less important than the talking, as I'm sure, Brandon, they are for you as well on Twitch. It's all about that community. We've all seen World of Warcraft raids, but, we don't all talk about moose. So we need to get that over. And, even if you know what Twitch is, you're not normally a fan, you don't have a Twitch account. I mean, the people that show up often, have a good time. Liz, Jerome, Buckshot Kid, others. It's a fun little chat, and it's going to be as lively as you want it to be. So even if you just want to pop in and ask me a question that, it's just not pertinent to anything else that I do, but you still want to talk about it or ask my thoughts on things, or even just let me know your thoughts on stuff, doors always open. Twitch.tv/Opinion Haver. And the various and sundry things that I do here on Hameen Media Group. You never know where you could find me. You've got the Next Level Wrestling Review with Big Ray Hernandez, and that's every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. It's our sad duty to talk about NXT. But the first half of the show is talking about everything else. So that's always a good time, at least I hope it is. Then, besides here, which you already know where you can find the Impact Attack, sometimes I've been filling in on the Monday Locker Room. So we've had some great conversations there with Ben Hameen, and people like that tag team as well. Although this week it was RBV back in the seat. I was keeping it warm for him. And because Ben has become the immortal Ben Hameen, winning the Immortal Wrestling Championship, he is now Benny 3 belts. And because of that, I have extended his life period. He is allowed to continue living, and that is why you're able to see him on the Monday Locker Room. So, welcome back, RBV. Doing great work as always, and I'll be there to fill in anytime he needs. That's one of my that's at least my featured role Like, that's how I want to be seen on the HMG platform, as the guy that can just step in whenever needed. And I stay on top of everything just so I'm able to do that for you guys. And as I mentioned earlier, when we had Pierce Austin pop in and say hello, I'll be appearing pretty soon. I guess he said Thursday on Shooting the Shit Uncensored. So keep your eye out on that episode if you want to see more of me. Great conversation with Pierce. A lot of fun. If you haven't heard Shooting the Shit Uncensored, he's had such guests as Masha Slamovich, which you may know. Or, he's had Bad Luck Fale on there. And Robbie Eagles. And just various great wrestlers in the past. Everyone from Vince Russo, Rob Van Dam, just tons of people. And now I'm added to that illustrious list. I couldn't be more humbled to do that, and it was really fun, and we're probably going to do it again sometime. So check that out and let me know what you thought of it when it drops, which is, as he said, sometime later this week. Please look forward to that. You could also have caught me on the PWC Network, the Monday Night Machismo Thursday edition with Jimmy T, where we talked about Monday Night Raw. He asked me my thoughts on CM Punk showing up backstage. And we just had a big, long conversation where I cut a promo about that stupid championship that Triple H brought out and why that hurts the business more than it helps. So PWC Network, check that out. I'm busy. I'm doing stuff, trying to entertain you guys, and I hope it's working. And I hope it worked here tonight. And we'll definitely see you next week. And hopefully we'll have some moose to bring with us next week and talk about. So,
some rare moose.
Rare moose. I don't want moose to be endangered. They should be plentiful. So, for Brandon, I'm the vet, and I